a review on iTunes. That always helps, of course. Let's jump into.
Let's talk
Anne
about
Levine.
the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
I
book?
have it here, by the way. Yep.
Yay, Ben! Yay! So I think, what is this,
Congratulations.
like, thanks guys. This is like my third version that you guys have both been featured in, something like that.
Oh,
This is
wow.
the 4th edition of the book. I've known you both over a decade now, I think. I think it's actually true. So I think the first version came out 2009. And then, so here we are, and it's the 4th edition of the law school admission game.
I would say I haven't read anything yet, but just looking at it, Anne, it looks more professionally formatted than your previous versions.
Thank you. I was just telling Nathan before you signed on, I'm like, I think this one looks the best.
Yeah.
I hope what's in it is also the best, but I actually
that's
think,
all
like,
that matters.
It looks
that's why your book has been
smoothest.
so successful. Yeah.
Right. It's the content, right?
Yeah.
It's your quotes and all of my amazing people who give me their essays as examples. But, you know, I also made a little bit political statement this time around. So there we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, oh, mind blown. But no, I'm really excited about this version. I think it's the longest version as well, because between the smallest font and the 209 pages, I'm feeling like there's some serious information in here for law school applicants. And this is so current that I finished writing it in June, and then it came out, and we are still in June. So this includes all the LSAT-Flex, all the GRE, all the COVID-19 crap. So it is super current.
Wow. Awesome.
And I hope you guys will like it, and I hope your people will like it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they will.
All of our students that we've ever given it to have loved it. It's an extremely useful book. Again, it's called The Law School Admission Game. And if we, at the top of the show, we kind of assumed, Anne, that everybody knows who you are.
Oh, that's sweet.
Many of our listeners do know who you are, but Anne is lawschoolexpert.com, or your law school at law school expert, right? On Twitter and Instagram.
I never
and
check Twitter. I kind of hate it, but Instagram, you can definitely find me. I check that every day in DM, and I check the blog and answer comments there as well. I've been keeping the Law School Expert blog since like 2006 or something.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna
there's
say,
a lot on there.
Yeah, you were in the law school admission game before I was teaching LSAT.
Yeah, I started Law School Expert in 2004, and it's all I've been doing ever since, which is a really long time now. And I know that because my oldest daughter was 4 months old, and now she's a junior in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what's new? And I mean, this cycle, all sorts of crazy stuff has been going on.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to you about it at all. So what's the latest?
So there's a few things. I mean, you know me, I hate Reddit. So I really hate all rumors that begin there. And the thing I hear a lot from right now from current applicants and people who are deciding whether to apply this year or whether to wait is this rumor that you should go ahead and apply to law school right now to start law school 6 weeks from now. And that law schools are desperate for people and you can apply last minute and get in. And I think that's total BS. And a lot of people are wasting a lot of time and money trying to do that, I think. And because obviously these schools still have wait lists, and most of the schools are not going to let people defer for COVID reasons, right? Because otherwise they'd make no money this year and they'd be overrun next year. And universities can't operate that way. Someone's going to have to suffer through online law school. So I'm not a big fan of that. That's one trend I've been hearing a lot of in the last few weeks.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
I'm under the impression that Harvard is allowing everybody to defer who wants to defer.
But I don't, that's Harvard. I don't know that everyone's going to follow that trend.
Have you heard, is Stanford doing that? Is Yale doing that?
I haven't heard specifics.
Okay.
I've only heard Harvard's stance on it. And to be honest, there's pros and cons to the deferring. Plus you have all the international students who won't be able to attend this fall for visa issues, right? And so are they really going to start law school online, or are they, this is crazy. So we'll have to see what happens. But I think wait lists will start to move in the next few weeks more. I mean, Northwestern's already moved, Penn is starting to move. So I think that will impact you get in off a wait list, you're not going to get a deferral. So I think that will impact things too. But I think these last minute applications is just a bad idea. And I'm mostly hearing about it not from people who want to go to T14s, but who want to go to like T100s or lower, and they want to apply last minute. And so that's one trend I've been hearing a lot in the last few weeks. I know you guys know way more about this than I do, but I'm hearing like people are really liking the Flex. They're really kind of happy with it. I'm with Ben. I think it's going to be here for a little while in August for sure. I mean, I say for sure, LSAT doesn't say for sure, but I mean, I can't see people sitting in a room together in August taking an LSAT. So, I mean, those are some interesting things. Hear a lot about GRE versus LSAT, of course. And the thing I don't want to read about in personal statements this fall is COVID. Okay. And I'll say one other thing I've been hearing a lot about is people are really upset, not upset, they're worried about their resumes not showing work experience this summer because their jobs got canceled, right? But you know me, I'm a big believer in worrying about what you can worry about and controlling what you can control and forgetting the rest. Law schools are very aware of the situation that internships are being canceled, even for law students, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about having blank space on your resume. It's more about what are you going to do with it? You're going to use it to take the LSAT. You're going to use it to get your law school applications together. You're going to use it to learn to play guitar. Like, what are you going to do with that time? So that's just throwing at you some of the things I've been talking to people about in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, this is great. Actually, can I go back for a second? I want to talk a little bit about deferrals. Before COVID-19, my impression was if you wanted to defer for a year, it was kind of a given. Is that not true?
It depends. I never felt that way, Ben. I felt like, especially with a scholarship, you had to be willing to walk away from a scholarship. And then for deferral, I felt like most schools wanted you to have a reason, either financial or you had some great opportunity that would make you more interesting in law school and to employers after, but generally not just because. Because remember, that's very hard for enrollment management at the law schools to just grant deferrals willy-nilly. So I never felt like they were just handed out. Especially at top law schools, I felt like deferrals were something you had to have a substantive reason to request.
Okay. That's interesting. So, but now the number of people asking for it is going to put the pressure on them to say, look, no, maybe.
Yeah, I think if I were running an admission office, I would have a hard time granting a deferral right now because how am I going to make budget? But the other piece on top of that is that, what are
you also
really
risk losing them, I guess, but
you do. And what are you going to do? Right. Because they can reapply, but what are you going to do for, during that year off? Right. There's not great employment opportunities, right? There's not great volunteer opportunities right now. Like, what are people really going to do during that time off other than retake your precious LSAT? So I'm a little dubious of the waiting year. I know people are scared because this will be a more competitive cycle because I'm really feeling, I'm acting like it's going to be fall 2009 cycle. You know what I mean? From when 2008, the recession came too late in 2008 for people to regroup and apply law school that cycle. So it all came the next cycle when the economy was bad. I think that that's what we are going to see, maybe not in as big numbers, but I think it will be a competitive cycle, especially because of the deferrals, especially because people will decide not to attend this fall and to reapply when they can't get deferrals. So I think it's going to be competitive, but not so much that I would scare anyone off if they really want to start in fall 2021.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
One more random speculation. I've heard people talking about law schools treating the flex differently. Have you heard people worrying about this?
I've heard people worrying about this, and I think this is one of those Reddit rumors. So all I can say is this. So I haven't actually talked to my friends in law school admission about who are still working in law schools about this. But if I were making decisions, I'd say the LSAT-Flex is something that I can report to. It's reportable to ABA. It counts toward the rankings. It's what's available right now. How can I punish people for taking a test that's the only thing available right now? I mean, I would look at it like, okay, this is what it is. This is what we have to work with this cycle, and that's what I'm going to rely upon for admissions. And perhaps it will make me look a little closer, like give a little more weight to someone who has a super high GPA rather than a super high LSAT, because that's over 4 years rather than 3 35-minute sections or what have you. I also think the fact that you can take the flex without accounting against the number of times you take the test is a benefit as well, because it gives people are more inclined to retake it. So it gives admission officers a sense of consistency over scores and growth over scores that can be relied on. So to me, if I, as a decision maker, I'm happy to take a flex. That's what's available. That's what I'm going to take. I'll go from there.
How would they be treating it differently? Would they be discounting it?
Yeah, that's what people are worried about. That's what people are worried about, that it won't count for as much because it's not a 5-section proctored, formally proctored test. But to be honest, I don't share that worry. I know that, and you know, that law school applicants have a tendency to find the tiniest little details to place great stress over that have really no bearing whatsoever on whether they get into their law schools they want to get into. And to me, worrying about whether the flex is going to be discounted by law schools is one of those things that I would say is a total waste of time to focus on. It is what's available. You take it to apply to law school. You do the best you can on it. If you have to retake it, you have to retake it, but don't stress over how the law schools are going to evaluate it. It's the only thing you've got to work with. Just, I wish people would spend more time stressing over their reasons for going to law school as opposed to all this little minutia that doesn't really matter personally to their outcomes.
It's almost like we have 3 levels, right? Decide whether or not you really want to do this and go.
Mm-hmm.
If you are confident and you have good reasons for going, then in the application package, what would you say people should be most concerned about? LSAT score, anything
Well,
else?
I mean, look, we all know that LSAT score helps determine where you can be competitive. It's not the only thing. I mean, I had 2 clients in at Harvard this year with LSATs in the low 160s. So by no means am I an LSAT snob, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I think having a cohesive story and a compelling story in your application, if I didn't believe that that was essential to people succeeding, I couldn't wake up every day and take people's money and do what I do for the last 16 some odd years, right? I feel that that's where the juice is, right? If you can really show a law school that you've done things thoughtfully, meaningfully, you've taken lessons that apply to other aspects of your life and to your future career, you've put a lot of thought into who you want to be and how you're going to get there. I mean, those intangibles, if they're presented effectively in an application, make a huge difference. And honestly, that's really what the book is about, is how do you explain weaknesses in your application? Because not everyone, but almost everyone has some kind of weakness in their application, right? Like either they just don't have enough work experience, or their work experience isn't relevant to law school, or they had a bad year or bad semester, or they didn't go to the most rigorous undergraduate school, or they have, their standardized testing history isn't amazing, or they've been arrested. Like there's generally no one's perfect, right? There are very few perfect law school applicants. So I really challenge people through the book to figure out what your weaknesses are, then counterbalance them with your strengths, and make sure that you're acknowledging or addressing any weaknesses that have to be hit face forward. You just have to be straightforward about, and then think about what strengths counterbalance that. So if you started school, 12 years ago and your early grades were crap, and then you joined the military, and then you went online while you were deployed, but your grades were solid at that time. Like, don't think of the online education and the early grades as a weakness. Think of that as a growth story. Think of that as showing how much you can handle at once, how dedicated you were to your studies. Like, if people really evaluate that and put that forward, law schools will appreciate what you bring to the table. And that's really whether you're building your resume, personal statement, diversity statement, addenda, that's really the key. So I mean, I kind of took what you said on a tangent, Ben, so sorry for that. But I mean, I think all of that really, really matters. And if I didn't believe it matters, I couldn't do what I do and write books about it 4 times over 10 years. So I think that it's easy to fixate on little things like the LSAT-Flex will be discounted or things like that. But really, in the end, it's about who you are as a person. You need, obviously, scores that show you can succeed and compete, but that's kind of, it's just part of the equation.
Would you say that who you are as a person and conveying that to the law school is, one, it comes through your personal statement, but it also comes through your optional essays, your addenda, and just how you, I imagine, communicate with the school?
Yes.
Right?
Can we talk about that?
Sure.
I would like to talk about that. So recently, I and a number of other law school admission consultants received inquiries from someone who wants to apply to law school where it was very clear his language was a little off, okay? That it wasn't really appropriate how you address people and how you and how much you tell someone during your first encounter. So those of us who have the luxury of deciding with whom we work, right? Because time is limited, and we, no one's entitled to our time as professionals, right? We can choose how to spend our time and expertise. So,
Sure.
So this person was kind of told by all of the reputable admission consultants, like, sorry, either some people said we're full, and I just was honest and said, I don't think I can be of help to you. So this person got pretty upset, and someone left a comment on my blog about, why would you refuse to help someone? And this person sent me, that person who was refused services, sent a long demand for explanation for why no one would work with him. So here's the thing: if you talk to admission consultants that way, and then you go talk to law schools that way, like, yeah, I mean, how you talk to a law school, how you present yourself, like, you're going to be a lawyer in the next 3 to 5 years. You need to conduct yourself as a professional. People will not work with jerks. People will not work with people who seem off. And people, if you overshare in your application, if you come off as blaming other people for your problems, if you come off as arrogant, any of these things will set off a law school and immediately put you in a ding pile. Okay. And I think that is something that some people are self-aware enough about to filter, and some people are not. And it can come through in a personal statement. It can come through in a resume just by the way you describe your duties. I mean, we've all seen resumes from people who've been legal assistants or paralegals who make it sound like they were doing all the legal work and their attorney was just signing stuff. I mean, that doesn't come off well, right? That doesn't reflect well on you. And no one is going to believe you're practicing law. And if you are, then you should be arrested because unlicensed practice of law. So, I think that this advice applies to a very small subset of law school applicants, but it is something I see every year. Whether just on people's contact forms reaching out to me, or the questions I'll get on the blog, or every so often a client will sneak through that I have to really filter because I do initial consults to make sure everyone's a good fit, that this is someone I really want to help, etc. And sometimes someone will sneak through that I didn't quite filter enough, and I have to really work with that person to teach them how to be humble, how to be credible. And I think those are, I mean, it sounds so silly. Like, I'm sure a lot of people are listening going, well, this is dumb. Like, who does this even apply to? But it does apply to some people. And my guess, of course, is that the people it applies to won't hear this, and it'll go in one ear and out the other. But I think that it is something that is a reason that people get dinged from law school frequently.
Cool.
The book is called The Law School Admission Game. This is the 4th edition of it. And